In the case of sexual violence, they are so traumatized.
If she's dead, they believe her.
Wow.
She was 17 at the age. One of these 17-year-old boys from her class, he's got some influence in the area, some political connection. So he's been harassing her continuously. What kind of society are we becoming?
Do we have any offender registry?
We have a record called the National Crime Records Bureau. It's only for those who are convicted.
So what happens to those who are acquitted?
They just go out and do it again.
And they think it's, fun.
And then we keep the girls at home and then we get them married.
Two boys like that.
Two boys like that.
Flavia's autobiography. You saw this in your home.
I was born into domestic violence. The offender is across class, it's across religion, it's across age. Oof. What does society say? She's a liar. What did you do? Why did you go there? What did you wear?
After Nirbhay, they introduced death penalty. What is your stance?
I am absolutely against death penalty for multiple reasons. One is I
Hello and welcome to Beyond Pink. Today, we can look forward to an electrifying yet terrifying conversation with my guest, Audrey de Mello. Audrey is the director of Majlis, a legal aid center for victims of domestic violence, sexual abuse, and rape. Audrey's mother, the renowned women's rights activist and lawyer Flavia Agnes, was a victim of domestic violence many years ago, and that experience eventually laid the foundation for Majlis. Today, Majlis has helped over 1 lakh women and is known around the country for its work with female victims of violence. Audrey is a lawyer and took over the reins of Majlis from her mother almost 20 years ago. Sexual violence means rape. And that's a criminal case.
yes.
And domestic violence, is that also a criminal?
Domestic violence has both. So all
Okay.
the divorce, custody, maintenance, that
Yeah.
would fall in civil.
Okay.
But if he's beaten you and you want to file a criminal case, then you would go to the police.
Okay.
Can I quickly explain the difference between civil and criminal for
Be
our
my
audience?
guest. Be my guest.
Because I'm just
Yes.
struggling with the fact of how people don't understand that difference.
No. We need to put it out there.
Okay.
Yes.
So you should imagine if I want the other person to go to jail for what he's done to me,
Yeah.
if what he's done to me is a crime,
Yeah.
and I want him to go to jail,
Yeah.
I should go to the police, and that would be a criminal case.
Right.
So we should be very clear that the outcome of a criminal case is jail. You cannot get money from there.
Yeah.
You can't say he beat me, I want money, I'll go to police.
No.
That doesn't work.
Okay.
Okay. Also, a criminal case is a police case. That means they have filed the case against the accused. It's not your case.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
a witness to the case.
You have gone and filed an FIR, and after that, there's the police.
Police
that
versus-
filed the case in court.
Versus accused.
Yeah.
And I'm a witness.
Yeah.
Okay. And you cannot withdraw criminal cases. You cannot take them back. Because they
Okay.
were not your case in
That's
the beginning.
it's not your case. Only the police has a say.
Yeah. So it's not like I filed it today, now I can take it back. You can't
No,
do that.
no.
Right? It's a long process if you
Yeah.
want to close that case.
Yeah.
Civil cases, now you imagine two people who are disagreeing on something. And they take that matter to court. You have a lawyer, they have a lawyer. You present your whatever you want, the reliefs you want, and then the court decides ha ya na. So marriage, divorce, custody, maintenance, these are all civil issues. Property, all of this is civil issues. And crime is a criminal issue. That's the difference. So domestic violence can be civil and criminal. I can use that he committed domestic violence on me and ask for reliefs. I can use the fact that he did cruelty on me and ask for divorce. Okay, the ground for divorce is that he was cruel to me. But if I want to file a criminal case, I can say he hit me on so-and-so date with a hammer, with a stick, and then they will put the relevant sections, and then he can be sent to jail. That's the difference.
So in the case of violence, which is, of course, a criminal case. Absolutely. Was it after Nirbhay that they introduced death penalty for rape?
Yes, 2018 amendment.
There's been a lot of controversy around that. What is your stance? What is Majlis' stance on introducing this
I am absolutely against death penalty
per se?
per se,
So am I.
and also as an organization. I am against death penalty for multiple reasons. One is I don't think anyone can take away a life. You didn't give life, you can't take it away. But more importantly is that this is a very, quick fix kind of response. An incident happens, you have not protected that victim, you have not sensitized your youth, you have not done so many things as a state. And then you catch one person and you put him to death.
Make an example out of
Make
him.
an example out of him. And I feel like that has caused so much harm to victims. Because
How?
firstly, the higher you put the punishment, the more the judges have to ensure beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes.
So they end in acquittal.
They end in acquittal.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because if they convict, they have to give death penalty. If a girl is raped below 12 years, punishment is death penalty. Now, imagine her father has raped her, or her brother, or her uncle. Because a 12-year-old girl, who will have
Usually
access
it's
to
a family.
it will be a family member. And if you are saying that this person is going to get death penalty, will the girl herself want to support this case?
She'll be so scared.
Absolutely.
And she will feel like a criminal. I did this.
Correct. So, for me, it's the surety of punishment, the ensuring the process. Let the punishment be small, but let it be precise that the message goes out.
And speedy.
Speedy. Even 7 years, according to me, has really vitiated the whole court process. Because now judges can, minimum punishment 7 years. What are you doing? The victim is getting nothing out of it. As a system, we're not providing her any support. And then you're putting this guy for 7 years. How is it helping her? You've not provided any support during the entire process. She has become worse off in her family, worse off in her community.
Because she's the accuser. She brought it all out.
She brought it all out.
Man.
So I'm a
That's
strong
tough.
believer of have less punishment, but do the process to ensure that surety that she gets that support and that you are taking these cases seriously. If the punishment was lower, judges would more easily convict. And
Okay.
then the repercussions are so bad because when they acquit, what does society say? She's a liar.
And it just emboldens that person.
But it's not that she's a liar,
Yeah.
but the requirement of criminal law to be able to prove something beyond reasonable doubt is so difficult, because there can't be even an ounce of doubt.
Yeah.
And you know how our investigation
Yeah.
is so sloppy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
for some small chain of command, you've not transferred some item correctly, they will say benefit of doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So reasons why cases go into acquittal are so many.
Yeah.
Pressure on the victim turns hostile, you can't find her, she's just been married off somewhere.
Yeah.
To so many reasons, police has not done a good case, prosecution has not done it well. And then you acquit and then you say, she's a liar. It's not a fair system.
And the police has to ask for death penalty.
No, that's not on the police. We have to put the crime sections.
Okay.
The judge will decide the...
Penalty.
It's all written in law, no? Nobody
Yeah.
gets to decide much.
So if you convict, it has to be death.
Whatever is the minimum punishment.
Okay.
The judges are given a minimum to maximum punishment. So if it's
Okay.
a theft, it's up to 3 years.
No, for I'm saying.
For rape, it is depending on the crime. So 3 years, 7 years, depending on the intensity,
Okay.
age of the victim, what harm was caused. So we have aggravated. So depending on that. But judges have been given very little room. So if you convict, you have to punish within that.
Yeah.
Because in front of them is a young boy. Can I put
Yeah.
him in for his entire life in jail? I can't, because I'm looking at he's looking like my son, he's looking like my neighbor. He's give him a first chance. He has a young wife, he has small children.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to be a judge.
Do we have any such concept over here? Something like a sex offender registry?
Yes.
We do.
We have started,
Okay.
and we
Okay.
don't like that idea.
Oh.
Somebody has committed a crime, they've finished paying their dues, they've served their jail time,
They paid the price.
they paid the price, what you have decided. Now, they've come back into society. As it is, it's so difficult because the jails, which are meant to support them, rehabilitate them, ensure that they come out changed, they do nothing.
They brutalize them further.
They brutalize them further. They don't help them understand like what they did wrong, how to, and then they come out knowing nothing after so many years. And now you're putting them in a registry. Apart from crime, they will have no other option.
Right.
What
Right.
kind of society are we becoming?
Right. Right.
Where we should have educated young boys about what they shouldn't be doing, we don't take that trouble. I don't know if you know the Shakti Mills case.
Yes.
So they were all boys who were hanging out in the Shakti Mills doing drugs.
Mm.
And in that, there were a minor boy who's not in school. What happened to right to education? Isn't that the state responsibility? So the state doesn't do its responsibility.
Just
and then
criminalize
criminalizes this.
whatever comes your way.
Yeah. Why did you think of the registry?
Because you were talking about how, there is an acquittal that happens by and large when evidence is not absolutely sealed. The acquittal seems to be the best way out. Then what happens to these people
Oh,
who
no,
are,
you can't get on a sex offenders registry if you're acquitted.
if you're not convicted?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
It's only for those who are convicted.
Yeah. So what happens to those who are acquitted?
They
They
just
are
go
out
out
there.
and do it again.
Do it again.
And they become stronger and more confident. They know how to beat the system better.
And does this happen often?
Very often.
Yeah. So how are these loopholes being plugged?
So today I got a call from my colleague. This girl, while she was in school, she was 17 at the age. One of these 17-year-old boys from her class kept following her, wanting to have a relationship with her. She kept saying no. Finally, he entered her house one day and he raped her.
Oh my God.
He's also a child. So for children, we don't have, a trial. It's done under the JJ board, which is the Juvenile Justice Board, which gave him bail, which was a good thing. We are all for bail. Why should somebody be in jail just like that? They're not yet convicted. Great. He's out. Now he's harassing her. So he's got some influence in the area, some political connection. So he's been harassing her continuously. So with his friends, they stand outside her thing, make comments on her. So we've already filed one NC with the police saying that he's doing this.
What's NC?
A non-cognizable. We're just registering the information.
Yeah.
So we took up that very seriously. Police called them and it stopped for some time. Yesterday, it started again. And the family is so scared. I mean, this girl is so scared.
Yeah.
Like, if that could happen, what else can happen?
Yeah.
And so they just, they don't stop.
Would you recommend what? Making processes tighter? Making speedier? What are the things? What are the steps that you would recommend?
I would firstly, recommend that we take these cases seriously in the light that we should not have this difference between the ideal victim
I was going to come to that.
in the entire society.
The victim as the, perpetrator.
Yes. And also in our head, we have an ideal victim, which is you should look a certain way. You should look like you are very meek,
The goody-goody.
goody. You should not have done anything. You should have not stepped out. Like, people have an impression. Firstly, if she's dead, they believe her.
Wow.
Like I always
Oh
say
my
this
God.
about Trisha Sharma. If Trisha Sharma was alive and filed a domestic violence case against her husband, they would have called her a false case.
Yeah.
So similarly, we have an impression of sexual violence victims.
Yeah.
Like this victim, she was raped in her own house. So immediately the doubt, did she call him? What did she do?
What did she do?
We have an image of a victim of rape, and only those victims we believe should get justice.
Yeah.
If she's a child, if she's badly injured with the rape, and then if it's somebody from the outside,
Yeah.
a stranger
Yeah.
who is preferably from lower class,
Yeah.
lower than her,
Yeah.
then we have sympathy.
Yeah.
And then we want death.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah.
Everything else, we are not sure.
Yes. Yes.
As a society, we are not sure. As the police, we are not sure. As the courts, we are not sure.
Yes.
And this is the problem.
You don't look like you were a victim.
Yeah. What did you do?
Yeah.
Why did you go there?
Yeah.
What did you wear?
Coming to this whole business of who is a sex offender? Are there statistics on demographics of sex offenders? Who they are? What is the profile?
Definitely.
Okay.
So what happens is we have a record called the National Crime Records Bureau.
Uh-huh.
It's a national data. Every year it comes out. 2024 data is out. It gives you age of victim. It gives you place of offense. It gives you age of accused. And all kinds of different, whatever is there in the FIR. How many cases have reached judgment. All this data is available. It's online. My only problem is with the issue of rape and domestic violence. The reported cases are only the tip of the iceberg.
True.
So I would say only 1% is getting reported. And
Only 1%?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. Because if
That's nothing.
because you just look around, anybody will look around and tell you everyone knows somebody who's gone through this.
Yes.
And yet they don't report.
Yes.
Because reporting is too heavy on the victim. There's too much shame. There's too much of, backlash.
Shame. Yeah. Victim shaming.
Victim shaming. So they don't report.
Yeah.
I mean, they tell their friends, they try to,
Yeah.
make a little bit of thing, at least the younger generation, they'll at least expose them. The whole Me Too campaign was
Yeah,
about that,
yeah.
right? I'm not recording an FIR, but I'm talking about it. So I wouldn't say that the National Crime Records Bureau is a indication of what's really happening in society. It'll only tell you of the reported cases, what does it look like.
Okay.
But even within that, I would say the offender is across class. It's across religion.
Uh-huh.
It's across age. We have crimes being committed by such young boys.
Oof.
Exploring and not exploring, but having watched pornography and wanting to experiment with a younger person.
Yeah.
As young as 7 years, you can't even record anything.
Yeah.
Till 18, under the Juvenile Justice Board, these data doesn't come out.
Right.
So only above 18 you
Yeah.
will get data.
Yeah.
And colleges are rampant.
Because of social media pressures and
All kinds of things, because they're getting this freedom for the first time and they're interacting with girls. They have not been taught how to understand boundaries.
Yeah.
And then in our country, it's like if I say I love you, I can have sex with you.
Yeah.
And this whole issue of what you call promise to marry.
What is
where-
promise to marry?
Promise to marry is a very interesting term, which is I'll tell you that I love you. And then I'll say that I'm going to marry you. And then the girl starts believing that, he's committed to me. Then he asks for her nudes, or he'll ask for to be having sex with her. And then he will leave her. Because maybe the caste didn't work out, or he found somebody else. And then she doesn't know what to do. Sometimes, most often, she's pregnant. Her family's not ready to accept her. And then she goes to the police to file a case. And these are promise to marry. It's not like a legal term. But in fact, now we have a section in law, which is that he had sex with her by deceiving her. So the deceit is that you promised to marry.
Yeah.
I would say that there's such little sex education in our country.
I was going to come to that we don't have sex education in schools as a subject.
They don't like to use the word sex because in our country we don't have sex.
We don't have sex. Yeah.
We're all very innocent. Then we get married. Then we have children. We don't have sex.
We don't have sex.
So we don't teach
Girls especially don't have sex.
No, not at all.
Girls don't have sex at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They just get pregnant.
They just get pregnant. Yeah.
So we used to have sex education. They've changed the term because they don't like the word sex. They said if you say sex, then they'll have more sex for some reason. But then girls don't know their bodies.
Yeah.
They don't know when they'll get pregnant. They don't know what pregnancy is. Boys have so much exposure to pornography that they don't know what real, person to person sexist. So they think they have to replicate all of that.
Yeah.
So it's such a warped situation we are growing up in.
Yeah.
And so always remember, this criminal is not coming from a dark jungle and looks a certain way. He's
Yeah.
among you.
Yeah.
It's just that he was also not educated, or he's not been taught what it means to respect women. In fact, he's seen just the opposite in his own home.
In his own home. Yeah.
His father's been beaten, his mother abusing her. So that's how women are treated.
Or the overall sense that of entitlement, male entitlement.
Yes.
Yeah. You just, even if you don't see violence, but you just sense that, everything is okay.
Absolutely.
I'm the boy, I'm good with everything.
And that's happening in your and my home. You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
We don't even have to put it far away. Maybe
Yes.
there's no violence,
Yeah.
but this is an underlying that women will do this
yeah.
and men will not do this.
Yeah.
And this is how it happens.
Yeah. And then the girl is the one who is kind of caged after that.
Absolutely.
Protection is caging her.
Yeah.
I remember there was a case many years ago where in a village in Haryana, they stopped sending all the girls to school. The entire girl population was
Stop.
kept at home because the boys were harassing the girls.
Yes.
But nothing was done to the boys.
No.
This was society's way of protecting the girls.
So this whole thing about loitering, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Boys loiter.
Yeah.
They're at addas, they're at punch shops,
Yeah.
they're at sitting on kattas. It's so comfortable.
Yeah.
You'll never find girls loitering.
Yeah.
We are always going somewhere.
Yeah.
We're going to school, we're going to college, we're going to office, we're coming back. We're not loitering.
Mm-hmm.
And while we are going,
Mm.
because they are loitering,
Mm-hmm.
they constantly
Harass them.
harass them.
Mm.
And then we stop the girls.
And they think it's, fun. It's fun.
Joke.
They have that power.
And then we keep the girls at home.
Yes.
And then we get them married.
2 boys like that.
2 boys like that.
So much to talk about. I can go on about this endlessly, but I'm now going to come back to Flavia. The reason we are talking, the start of the whole thing is Flavia. So, Audrey, I read Flavia's autobiography. It moved me in so many ways. But what struck me most of all was you saw this in your home, and here you are sitting, talking strong, you know your facts, you are aware, you are empowered, you haven't. And I know that your brother and your sister, all 3 of you have been absolutely sterling members of society. Whereas you hear of children whose, when they see such abuse at home, they are so traumatized all through life. What has been your own story? How did you come to be here, a pillar of society, if I might call it that? I don't believe in those terms, but here you are sitting in front of me, Audrey DeMello, the lawyer. How did that come about?
I was born into domestic violence. By the time I was born, domestic violence was very entrenched in our home.
Which is your father was beating your mother constantly.
And I won't say beating, there was always the fear that the beating will come.
Yeah.
So just to give you a scenario, they just don't come and beat you. There's always a threat.
Yeah.
And there's always a fear. And we don't know when it will escalate. So you're constantly in fear
Yes.
that you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So I was born into that, because by the time my eldest brother was born, the beating had started, and it was an everyday thing. And it was not everyday beating. It would be a build-up. And then there was also a making up. So it's a cycle. Then you'll look at some good times, and then again some incident where, and when it will come and for what it will come, nobody can tell.
Nobody can predict.
So by then my mother had slowly started, understanding that she had to do other options. By the time I was 8, it was start of the early women's movement. And somehow, through a very young girl who was speaking at her church about why, God is a woman. And Flavia really liked her talk, and she, approached her. And that's how Flavia got introduced to the early women's movement. And I was all of 8 at that time.
Okay.
It was 1980. And she got the courage, with the help of the women's movement, to finally at least imagine something, like something is possible.
Yeah.
But then she left.
And left you behind?
Left us behind. And somehow she got that confidence that if her children's mother should be alive, then it can only happen if she's able to, protect them from outside. So it had a different impact on all 3 of us, I would say.
Okay.
So she tried taking us also, but it didn't work out. She didn't have the money. She didn't have a home. She didn't have so many things. So she would take us, then she had to put us back. She had to come back a couple of times because we were struggling. But in the end, I mean, she knew her path by then. She was, she started educating herself, because when she left, she had not even graduated.
Yeah.
So then she took up education. She was working on this issue. She had started the Women's Center for other women like her. And then it was just flying from there, because then I could travel on my own and I could go meet her. So for me, her decision to leave, her decision to stand up for herself has been a real place of strength.
And the fact that she chose to contribute to this cause rather than, just become a secretary in some organization.
Absolutely.
She could have done that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have never shied away by telling people that, this was our home or this was our situation. She never made us feel like we need to hide. Never did she hide.
And what feelings did you have about your father through all this?
I have had different feelings about my father because...
Is he alive?
No.
No. He passed.
He passed away. So like I said, I was talking about boys and how they're not taught. I would say my father's also a victim of this whole social structure. He comes from a very rural village, 13 children, difficult time, his mother struggling. And then he is like what they call a self-made man. So studied, came to Bombay, got a job, did his his CS. He was a company secretary in the Tatas. Imagine. And he gets like this accommodation. And then he marries this woman, beautiful, and she was meant to play a role. But he had not been taught how to live with a woman. My mother, on the other hand, is, raised by five sisters, very protected, but also very, well-read, well-dressed. She had a mind of her own. And he didn't know how to deal with it because his only image of a woman was his own mother, who was very subdued or what
crushed
he saw
by
around
her
him.
circumstances.
Yeah. And that's when all
So that
this
insecurity.
friction, this insecurity about her looks. My mother had asthma, or my mother had her sisters who were abroad, and all of those nuances that come into a relationship. And my father did not know how to handle it, and his only response was to act like a man and beat her or control it through his money. So I felt different things about him. He was again, I want to tell you is there's no one look of a victim, there's no one look of an abuser also. They're sweet also.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my father being really sweet on Sundays. He would buy us this thing. He would cook sometimes. He was a very good cook.
Yeah.
I look a lot like my father, they used to say.
Yeah.
But he was very sweet to me.
Yeah.
Of course, there would be incidents where even I would be included in the abuse. But I don't think of him as a horrible man. I just think of him also as one of those people who was just not equipped to handle a relationship, an equal relationship. And he died really sad because he could control us only because he could control money. And once we didn't need his money, there was nothing he could do. And he died alone.
You guys had left the home by then.
Yeah, I mean, we used to come and go the way we please.
Right.
The moment my mother stood up and made a name for herself, we were not scared of him. So we would use that place when we wanted to. He would beg us to come stay. He died a really sad life. He had a lot of money, lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
So I did inherit his money. All the money he didn't spend on us when we were children and wearing
Yes.
torn uniforms to
Yes.
school,
Mm.
even though we were living in like a pretty decent society. Never a holiday, never a restaurant. So he died very rich. He didn't know how to spend his own money.
Mm.
So I've
Rich and
inherited
miserable.
that money and it's there. I refuse to use it because I feel like it's very cursed.
Tainted. Mm.
But I'll keep it and maybe do something good with it.
Well, you're already doing a lot of good work. I don't know about the money, but you're already doing so much good work with Majlis.
I felt that I needed to give back. I know what it meant to receive support when we needed it.
When you needed it.
And maybe I could not pay
Right.
back. So many people have helped us. We couldn't pay them back. We didn't have
Yeah,
anything.
Yeah.
So I felt that Majlis should survive.
And do you have any sort of goal setting for Majlis?
No, I don't believe in goal setting because our work is about responding to what's happening.
Okay.
So if you ask me, Majlis has been doing work on domestic violence for 35 years now. We continue to do that work, but we've been so innovative in it.
Yes.
Changing with times, responding to new issues, responding to what is happening in this field.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we only do matrimonial domestic violence and rape.
Yeah.
But in that, things are changing, ever evolving, and
Yeah.
you need to respond.
Yeah.
And you also need to understand the moment the place gets saturated, you can move on to something else.
Right.
But if you create a program, then you have got people and then you have to do only that. You may do it.
Yeah.
So I believe more in creating structures that can respond, having people who understand how to respond, developing that, rather than having organization goals of we want to reach 10,000 women. That's not the idea. So we've started the Flavia Agnes Center for Learning, and our training, our policy advocacy, our research, our publications, all of that comes from the center.
Wonderful.
And that learning comes from you.
I mean, I was reading somewhere you've already helped more than 50,000 women.
More than 1 lakh women.
More than 1 lakh women.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you count their families, their children,
That's a pretty big footprint.
it is. And considering we are only in Bombay for our casework.
Yes.
So we're very small. We are very nimble. A lot
How
of
big are you? How many people?
we are 35 women lawyers now.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
That's not small. 35 lawyers, I would say, is a pretty significant achievement in this
To
field.
get that many women lawyers to do this work.
Yes, yes.
And considering that we don't pay commercial rates, we
Yes.
kind of have very compromised salaries that they work on.
I can imagine.
They still do it very passionately.
Yeah. And you charge your clients?
No. For our sexual violence cases, we don't charge at all.
Okay.
For our domestic violence cases, also, we don't charge for the initial process. But if it goes to court, then we have a pay-as-you-can capacity, some depending. But most, I would say 90% of our cases are free.
And I believe Majlis has a huge supporter whose name is Azim Premji.
Oh, yes.
How did that come about?
It was very interesting, actually. So, Azim Premji has a foundation and they work in education.
Okay.
He realized that children cannot come to school and be present, emotionally, physically, and just be whole human beings if families are facing domestic violence. Because finally, it is the mother who ensures the boy or the girl reaches school on time, does her homework, or is fresh for the next morning. So that was the connection he made. And he decided that he would support some organizations who are already very established doing this work to support victims of domestic violence.
That is
And
amazing.
hats off to him and all our, best wishes to him, because to be able to make that connection, no
Yeah.
other corporate
Yeah.
has made that connection.
Yes. And hopefully other organizations will also follow suit.
Yes.
Then maybe the narrative changes.
True.
That ultimately it's the woman who is building her family. And that she needs to feel secure.
And that is for all problems in society. If you're dealing with environment, you have to support women.
Yeah.
Women are that center of what, you want to address any problem. She has to be complete
Yes.
She has to feel supported, and you can resolve so many problems.
So many issues. Absolutely. Well, Audrey, this has been an absolutely fantastic chat.
Thank you.
All the best to Majlis, all the best to you, and a lot of regards to Flavia, a lot of respect to her. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello and namaste. I hope you've been watching these conversations that I have brought to you with some very remarkable women in our country. The conversations, as you know, are about anything and everything that matters to a woman, and then, of course, by corollary, to society. If you are enjoying these conversations, do please like, share, subscribe so that others in your circle can also enjoy them. Thank you. Keep watching.